All right. Hello, everyone. Type in the chat if you can hear me. Perfect. Okay. So welcome to hashtag EastCon20 Play on Breakout Sessions hosted by East. My name is Sarah Swisher and I'm the project coordinator here at East. And I'm joined here today. Oh, go ahead, Melissa.
Hi, my name is Melissa Clemens. I'm the student training coordinator here at East.
And we're your moderators. So we will be here to answer your questions in the chat and help troubleshoot any issues you may have with the webinar. Take a moment to familiarize yourself with the options in the chat on your screen so you won't miss an opportunity to chime in.
Most questions are going to be answered at the end of the session during the Q&A portion.
If you are unfamiliar with East but have chosen to tune in, thank you so much for joining us. Here's a little bit about what we do. So East is an educational nonprofit headquartered in Little Rock, Arkansas. We put industry-grade technology into classrooms so students could do service projects in their communities. With 259 programs spanning across Arkansas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and Pennsylvania, we provide all learners with the opportunity to have relevant, individualized, and life-changing educational experiences.
Today, you're tuned in to one of our virtual breakout sessions. Joining us today is Nicole Pena, a facilitator of East at Hellstern Middle School in Springdale, Arkansas. In 2019, East at Hellstern received the 2019 Founders Award at the East Conference. Students of East at Hellstern represent the program in many different ways. Each student has very different interests and reasons why they love East. From working with coding, photography, graphic design, and speaking, they all strive to be their best as they work towards their goals and try to solve problems together as a family. With their community partners, their go-getter attitude, and their problem-solving mindset, they can accomplish what used to be impossible. Today, Nicole is going to talk about the Global Classroom Project, which is a collaboration between her program and an Italian classroom. Nicole, are you ready?
I am.
Great. Let me start your video. Okay, take it away.
Hi guys, welcome to the first breakout session of our East Zoom Conference 2020, right? This is exciting, new time. I know that I'm the first one to do this, so this is all new for all of us. I wish I could see all your faces. So this year we didn't set out to do a global classroom. It wasn't anything like that. It was just, we went to visit our son in Italy, and when we were doing that, my husband's best friend from junior high is a teacher there, and he married an Italian, and I think he's been there about 20 years. So when we were talking, of course, since he's a teacher, we were talking about what he teaches and what I teach, and he also teaches computers. So I started talking about what we do, and we just had a normal conversation. We went home. A couple months later, he texted me and he was like, "Hey, I'm getting to do this STEM class, and I would really like to do it kind of like your class." So we started talking about that. We had already started school and he hadn't started school yet. So it was interesting to have the conversation, because I was able to go back and take it to the kids and talk to the students about what they would want to do and how they would want to do it. It's really weird not seeing people's faces. Can I just say that? So when we were doing all this, the students were really excited to try to kind of help them form an East classroom of their own. I know that this is not the first time that this has been done. Jeannie from Batesville High School has a successful program. Now it just escaped me where it is, but they had done this previously. So I called her and got her opinion about how to do this and some different things, and she was super helpful, as all the facilitators I've ever asked to help me with anything have always been. As we went through this, we started going back and forth about what we would do and how we would do it. And as I talked to, his name's Kevin Cohn, he's Professor Cohn. So as I talked to Professor Cohn, we decided we'd just do some Zooms, and that we'd get the kids to talk a little bit and figure out what we were going to do. The principal, I don't think they're really called the principal there, but the principal was not completely on board, from what I understand, with students picking their own projects, which is what we do in East. So that's a new concept for most people, and I know that that was something that was hard for them to think about. So instead, their entire class picked a project. So what they decided to do, apparently there's quite a few fatalities from people getting run over and things like that in Italy. They're in Milan. That is my lunchtime. So I know if any of my students are on there, they really enjoyed that. It goes off at horrible times always. So as we worked towards figuring out what they were going to do, they were trying to figure out different ways to solve this problem. And they came up with putting LED lights in clothing, and they designed things to 3D print so that we could print them for them on, what's it called? With glow-in-the-dark filament. Sorry. So with the glow-in-the-dark filament, we could create it and then send it back to them. And that was kind of the process that we were going through. And as we worked for this, we decided to also, we made an ArcGIS form that each of his students could take. And as they walked down the streets by their house and by the school and the different things, they decided to, they could mark what was going on. So if there was a crosswalk, if there wasn't a crosswalk, if it was an electric crosswalk with like the lights, or if it was a light that, just a street light, if the street light worked or if the street light didn't work, things like that. So that was where we started with, and then we could map it all out and show them the data there. So that was our start, our starting ideas. The first time we met over our Zoom meeting, we just did like an entire class Zoom. So I turned on Zoom on one computer and he turned it on his main computer, and then we just all kind of talked. That was awful. So that was kind of our second roadblock, because we realized that they couldn't really hear everything we were saying with the speakers and things they had in their class. And so it was hard to get communicating that way. So then, sorry, this is really weird without like feedback from everyone listening. So as we were doing that, it was time to see like what was all happening, but we were trying to figure out how to get the students where they could really talk to each other. So we started a class flip grid. And so it was like one class between the two of us, and we just told them to introduce themselves to each other and to do that kind of thing. I forgot, I do have one of them to give you an example. If maybe I can show it here in a little bit of one of the responses, because it was really fun to see. A lot of the kids went home and did it from their house. And so we asked them to tell us their age, their interest, things they like in school, different things like that. And the students really responded well to each other. They enjoyed being together. it seemed like. So then we decided to also do one-on-one Zooms. So we gave every student in Italy a student in Arkansas, right, in our classroom. But what happened there is his class was right after school on Wednesdays, and my class was the very first. It's not really a class, it's like an advisory class, the first one of the day, right? So as we tried to do this, a lot of students would either not be there for the day or something like that, or maybe they were just sick, and different things kept happening like that. So they didn't always have a partner. So that was kind of one of our other roadblocks. So we had the roadblock of, the principal not being completely on board. Then we had our technology, getting everything to work the way we wanted. The same with Zooms. Even when it did work, a lot of times people couldn't get on each other's Zooms. Somebody didn't hit start meeting, or somebody somehow blocked the video, or their audio wasn't working. So when we did meet, it was a constant of me and Professor Cohn just troubleshooting, going from student to student, trying to fix the Zoom to make it work properly. Obviously, we've all gotten a lot better at Zooms now after having to do this for a while, but that was kind of a hard thing that we had to go through. I'm not sure if he's on here or not. I know he was going to join us. So I'd like to hear his side of it. But as we did all these different things, it was just kind of it was learning, but the students were really bonding. They were trying to help each other get through different things, different just like problems in the projects, but also just talking to each other. And I feel like in all this, they had the communication barrier with some of them, but they all spoke English very well. Some of my students had a hard time with their accents, but even though everything didn't always work exactly as we want, and everything like that, he had actually planned on bringing students to our East Conference, and we thought that that would be the most fun and exciting and learning, and they could see how things would work. This semester we had planned on doing more projects instead of just one for his whole class, but they haven't been in school in I think over 6 weeks, and I think it's been 8 weeks since we actually got to speak as classes. But I think the one thing we got out of it, and then I want you to ask me questions. The one thing that we got out of it is, like, even with the little time that the students had together, the exposure to the culture, each other's cultures and languages, was really rewarding for the kids. They really liked it. My students keep asking me if his students are okay, if he's okay, if his family's okay, because they really bonded, and they bonded through learning and trying to fix something together. And I think that's something that we can all learn from. Hey, Professor Cohn's on here. All right, well, that was all I had. So any questions you guys have, or anything? Hi, anything that you want to add? Nice to see you.
Yes, nice to see you too.
Okay, it looks like at the bottom, do you have anything you want to add? I don't know how much of you heard. I said the kids really, learned just from talking to each other, I feel like.
Yeah, I just got on, so I don't know what you said. I might be repetitive, but anyways, I'll speak on our behalf. It was actually a really good experience for us. Two factors. One was to connect to an American school system, so a different school system than we're used to here in Northern Italy. And also to speak with native speakers, and especially their age. So we work at it's a bilingual school. It's a prestigious school in Northern Italy. And to even be part of the language program, it's something that you have to take an entrance test. So it's something that is challenging. And this is actually a new frontier for us to connect to another school outside of Italy. And I was really lucky to know Prof. Pena, Mr. Pena. But it was fun. Just for me, also as a teacher, I was not familiar with East. Basically, our school wanted to kind of do something new, and we wanted to do a STEM lab. And so since me and Miss Pena are friends, she was telling me about East because I had to create a STEM lab. And I think it kind of, I think in the beginning, it went quite well. We did have some challenges, but overall, I think as a pilot run between actually what is East, which I'm very thankful for her, because she gave us a lot of information and a lot of resources. And East seems kind of like again, I'm not too familiar with it, but it seems like East is like an upgraded version of STEM. And that is something that my school would be really interested in. Unfortunately, what has happened globally, we had to cease everything because we are now in our 6 weeks. This is our 6th week of quarantine. So we haven't been to school in 6 weeks. But the kids loved interacting with the American students in Springdale. And we were actually pushing for a moment for us to even come over. So what I like about the program is that it has a lot of opportunities for us to apply certain principles, whether it's scientific or mathematical or even I'll use the term technological, but I think in America we call it engineering. So overall, it was nice because we decided we had an objective, and with Mrs. Pena's class, we were able to find a line where maybe they can help, they can collaborate. So on our side, we really enjoyed it. We had a good time. We wanted to do it again because it was set up as semester modules. So the first semester was with her class, and then I was going to do a completely different class with the second module. But even though we had some challenges and hiccups as far as communicating, it's funny because we're using Zoom, but I've learned to hate Zoom. This is the only time in the whole school year I use Zoom, and it looks like it worked. No, but what was important is that the kids really enjoyed it, and I think for a pilot run, it went pretty well. I think we can fine tune certain objectives and to make certain things run smoother. One thing that I wish we had more time on was I don't remember the name of it, but it was a mapping software system.
ArcGIS.
Yeah, okay. And it was wonderful. We used it only very few times, but it was something that the kids really, really like to do. And it would also, it just enriches our STEM, our lab, what we want.
One of the teachers is asking how you're communicating with your students right now.
Yeah, okay. So that's a wonderful question because everything is unprecedented. So I don't know anything about China. So let's say Western Europe, and so we were the ones that were hit the most. And so February 26th is when all the schools shut down, but it was right at spring break. So it was a wonderful coincidence because for the schools, there was no problem. But so since February 26th, we haven't been in school. The first 2 weeks initially was kind of, it was very flexible. It was like, okay, let's see if this is something serious. If it's serious, what are we going to do? And we tried using an internal platform. So what my school tried to do was, instead of using Microsoft Teams, or Google Teams or Google Hangout, or Sky Meeting Go. There's so many. We use an internal platform and it crashed. So we went from Microsoft Teams and it crashed. And I think in Italy, our biggest problem is that every school, by the third week, we were fully functional. So by the third week, we have to follow our teaching schedule. So regardless if I'm in front of a screen or if I'm in a classroom, we have to follow our schedule. So the first challenge was we need to find a system that doesn't crash. So Italy strengthened their systems, which means that Microsoft Italy, Google Italy had to upgrade their servers. And then by the fourth week, we were operational. But then the next problem occurred. So since the coronavirus became something serious, and we know that school will be closed for a long time, it was like, well, how do we evaluate? How are we going to follow our program? I mean, some of the students left their books at school. It sounds stupid, but so it's been challenging for us. One, because as you know, this is all new. Two, teaching in front of a screen is challenging because it just drains you. You have students who are undisciplined. And when I say undisciplined, and I'm saying that they're like eating in front of you, or their mom or dad comes in the class, in the room, or they're eating and you hear all this noise, or the dog's barking. And so you have to teach a different set of class rules. Please mute the microphone. If somebody comes in, don't mute somebody else, because if you're using Microsoft Teams, which we are, they don't have a system where, the teacher has 100% control. So it's been challenging. It's been interesting. I think there's a lot of benefits to it, but I think whoever asked me that question, we can all agree that in order to teach, you got to physically be in the same classroom. So our school, they told us to reduce the program. So instead of, let's say, I'll give it a percentage. We've gone from 100% to about 50% because it's just difficult. Now, some teachers even have whiteboards behind them. Some teachers have been able to be extremely productive. I'm still learning. But,
Also ask, they just also ask if everyone has a computer and access to the internet is like in your school.
Okay, wonderful question. Now, I want to say I'm fortunate because the school that I'm at, everybody has access. Everybody has access to a computer. I know that is a challenge in different demographics where people might not have access to a computer. So for those who don't have a computer and they have a phone, which most people do, most platforms run on the phone. So for example, if you're using Edmodo, if you're using Google Meet, if you're using Microsoft Teams, all of that can run from the phone. Now, of course, if you're sending homework, or if they have to do homework and they have to upload it, it's impossible. So if you're in that situation, I would just recommend to only do oral evaluation, because to recognize that people do have challenges. What we're having a huge problem with is that even though it seems, especially from America, that things are horrible, okay, so I'm not going to butter it, things are bad, but most families, it's the kids, all students think they're on vacation. Like, they're not screaming or yelling or crying. They're like in front of Netflix 10 hours a day. In fact, Italy asked Netflix to shut down because everybody is using Netflix on their server, which is creating problems when you're using the same internet trying to teach. So you have kids in front of Instagram for like 6 hours. Like right now I'm talking to you, but I could be a student, but all I have to do is I could look at my phone the whole time and you won't even know I'm on my phone. Or like if you're testing me, I can have Post-its all over my computer screen. And so it's just like, how do you know if the student is honest? You know, how do you know? It's just a whole different dimension. So what we've asked our families is to collaborate, is to make sure that they're not distracted when they have the lessons, and that that to make sure that their child isn't lying. I hate to say this because, for example, we've come across, I just got an email from the school saying there's a huge problem because when students are called upon to give presentations or to give some kind of work, all of a sudden the internet doesn't work. All of a sudden the headphones don't work, the audio doesn't work. So yeah, it's challenging. So I can see where if a student doesn't have a computer, that's challenging. But on the same side, those students who have computers, they don't take it serious. This is just from my personal experience. It's just like, you know, I'm like, are you guys okay? I mean, because I worry. I mean, to be honest, from a teacher's point of view, I don't care about my subject. I care about their mental well-being. But when I talk to them, it's just like, yeah, I'm kind of bored. I was watching Netflix and I just finished the entire like third season of Elite or whatever they're watching. So for them, it's just like a kind of like a vacation stuck indoors.
So they also just ask, are you guys all on the same server outside of the school? Like you're all using the same server or just the same internet is what you're saying?
As far as I know, for example, that I have different colleagues working at different schools, and also with my own children who go to different schools. There are different types of internet carriers. The problem is that it's the platform itself. So I'm not doing any form of advertisement, but for me, Google is the best. I'm not sponsored. I'm not sponsored. um, you know, Microsoft Teams is good. Of course, like, I don't know if you're aware of this, but this stuff isn't free and schools have to pay for it. And Microsoft Teams is expensive, and there are cheaper platforms. So even though they might have different internet providers, it comes down to the platform trying to handle all of the traffic.
Okay, I know we only have like 2 minutes left.
Okay.
How cooperative do you feel like your families have been? I know we switched from like our global classroom to just talking about this.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, no, this is important. That is a great question, because as an educator, you know, you can't go far unless the parents collaborate, because, you know, the battle needs to be fought on two fronts. I will say this, the majority of families have been very collaborative. That, I think, has been the key to our success, because one thing my school has been doing is communicating constantly with families. And not only are we communicating, the school is offering now, but now we're offering different types of workshops in the afternoon, because the families are coming to us and they're basically saying, thank you, but we're struggling because we think that the workload is not enough. Can you offer something else? So now we've been doing afternoon labs with the students. So the majority of the parents are collaborative. So yes. I think also because this is such a very strange situation. I think that every parent in every country, that's their number one concern, is, you know, their kids' education. And I think no matter who you are, you don't want your kids to miss this moment to learn, because the big word is atrophy, and I and I see it. If you don't use your brain, you lose it.
Yeah. I know we're out of time. Does anyone else have any questions for either of us?
Hey, it's Sarah. We have one more question, and it is, was there positive feedback from the students? Were there any issues communicating or getting across what they need to know?
I think our biggest thing when we were communicating was not always getting the Zoom to work the way we wanted. It was usually user error, as far as I think. I'm not sure what Professor Cohn thinks about that, but I think most of the time it was user error we figured out. The students really wanted to talk as much as they could. I know he told me that his students wanted to be able to set up other times that they could just like hang out and talk. So
yeah, to answer that, yes. I think we unfortunately wasted, I'll use the term wasted because the time was
we
limited.
wasted a lot of time.
Yeah, we wasted time as far as finding a moment where we can all connect with Zoom. I'm not a big fan of Zoom as far as my personal experience, but I think besides that biggest obstacle, I think probably I don't want to say challenge, but because East for me is something new, I've never heard of it. I don't believe there's any other schools in Italy using it. I think it is, from what I know, I think it's a wonderful resource to apply different subjects. So just me personally, probably just trying to understand fully what East can offer and understanding certain things such as the mapping software.
Yeah. I think, sorry, I was also trying to type an answer.
Oh, okay. Multitasking. Good for you.
Yeah, I think that the communication was the hardest because of the time difference more than anything. We were trying to get to class, like he was getting to class when we were leaving class the first semester, and then we kind of changed it and overlapped it in a different way where like I did my first block instead of the other block. And so he was actually getting ready to leave when we were getting into class. And I think that was going to work a little bit better. We had decided because I could get it set up during my 0 hour with some of the students. So I think we plan on trying to do it next year. That was one of the other questions. Like, we haven't got to talk a lot about this. You know, this all kind of just happened, and
Yeah.
he's been busy, and then we went on spring break, and then we got shut down too. And so we personally haven't really talked to each other about it much, but I think our plan was to try to continue.
Definitely.
Yeah. So
we're 4 minutes over, but I think we can end the webinar with one last question. That question is, what has East meant to you in this project? How has this project exemplified what East is and what your definition of East is?
that was to Professor Cohn, right?
Yeah, you know what? I will say this. My knowledge, even though I try to check you guys out, my knowledge, I think, of East is very limited. From my perspective of what I saw is that it's in an advanced form of STEM. And when I say advance, is what I mean is not necessarily like something like 2.0, but the concept of transferring information, the idea of learning something, but utilizing different tools. So I see East as a wonderful tool that I know just only a small amount. And I think, like I said, that it has a good potential, not only for my school, but other schools, as long as that it is, I would use the term accessible. I would find the term a little bit more accessible. There were some moments when I had a kind of a difficult time moving around as far as the website and trying to understand it from an educator's point of view. But besides that, I like what Nicole said is, hoping everything goes back to normal starting September. I look forward to, working with her again on using East, but using it in a more complete way.
Yeah. And Professor Cohn would be the perfect East facilitator, by the way, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Thanks for everybody being a part of this.